of you have been to the General Assembly website?
I have.
I have.
I have.
Okay, great. There
Many
are
times.
amazing amounts of things you can do with this. I'm still discovering things. I think it was Jean and I were discussing trying to get on the schedule for a committee meeting. Now, I still haven't figured out how to do that for the Senate, but here's the House of Delegates schedule. And you can sign up, just give testimony. You, I believe, can also sorry, my brain is fried from the first meeting. You can get an email feed from what a committee is doing. That's what we were looking for. So here's Privileges and Elections, the Constitutional Amendments Subcommittee, which is going to figure largely in the League's interests. We got the members. I'm looking for it now. Received notifications. There it is. Now I'm not on it for the subcommittee. Obviously, it knows me. So that's how you can do it in the House. And look, it's given me a whole list of other things. A whole list of other things. Okay, that's one of the many cool things that you can do. On the General Assembly site. Here's a calendar. The members in sessions is the section that's the most useful for tracking legislation. Oh, this pull down here will take you directly to the Legislative Information System. But you can get to, and this is a new thing. They've got like a call center this year because of them not being where they normally are. Does anybody need to know about who's my legislator? You all have tracked down your legislators?
We're okay.
And you know, there's a basic formula for the email. The senator, it's going to be district number, like mine's District 7. And for the House, it's going to be DEL, first initial, last name.
Oh, and also for the Senate, they use zeros. So that's important. You can't just put the number 6.
Thank you. Yeah, I fortunately the computer remembers how I want to do that, so I'd forgotten. They have to do things differently. This is what the House's listing looks like. And well, let's look at Askew since he's local. So if you didn't know his legislative aid, there it is. So you can be really friendly and speak to Logan. And it's Virginia Beach. Here's these committee assignments. I hope they're up to date. Proposed budget amendments. See, and that popped us right into the legislative information system. There are multiple entry points. And here are the things that he wants to get some money assigned to. More information if you want to be friendly. Okay. Oops, didn't want that one. In fact, I'm getting rid of that. The Senate listing doesn't look the same. Any preferences to who we look up?
Jen Kaggins.
We have a picture. And you may have known that Tyler Edmonds is her legislative director. Personal information.
Carolyn, could you show us the District 7 description and the map, please?
That's just all there is. It's not a hot link.
Usually it is.
But I'm going to take something out of order since you asked. My go-to for a district map is the Virginia Public Access Project. Well, there's our house. I want Senate. Well, doesn't look like it wants to give me some. At any rate, how the House districts have been redrawn more recently, so they're the more difficult ones. So, okay, who knows which district this is?
It
Mine,
says
it's
890.
mine. It's mine.
Oh, you want to know the person, Jay Jones, yeah.
So I got out of order, but that has been where I've been going for House districts because they were the harder ones to find.
Carolyn, when you had his picture up there, the word more was up there. Can you click on more so we can see what else it show for him?
Oh, I like that.
So what that's telling you here is how the district voted. This is only the current person. So the more was more about the district than it was more about Delegate Jones, okay? But going back to, where was I? Here, the Senate. We were looking at Jen Kiggins. This is a little deceiving. This isn't about her. This is about the Senate. So as you can see, the Senate just doesn't want to do things the way the House does them. That was strange. I'm okay. Going back to this, another really important thing is videos. So the next floor session it's telling us will be the 18th. So apparently they aren't working this weekend. If you miss something, I missed the first privileges as an elections committee meeting. So I watched it after the fact, and I watched our state president testify in support of a couple of bills. That was this one. That helps if you just want to keep up. There is so much on the General Assembly site that I urge you to take time when you have time to simply explore. It's not relevant this time. But they actually have on here somewhere seating charts. There. And that's interesting in terms of getting to know faces and seeing who's sitting beside who. Should you ever be in the gallery, it will also tell you who you might be able to see from which part of the gallery. Just a by the way.
Are they sitting that way, sort of, in the Science Museum this year?
I doubt it. I don't know. I honestly don't know what they've done with the Science Museum, and I wouldn't expect them to offer a seating chart.
Yeah.
I think they had it, like, it didn't look it was like, it looked like a big rectangle to me.
Yeah.
Obviously, because it's a different room. But Amanda Chase will be in her little plexiglass thing, but everybody else would be out.
Oh, that's right, because she doesn't wear a mask. Last year the plexiglass booth was because George Barker had just had surgery and was extra vulnerable.
I've heard from some legislators that they're so angry with her that they're not going to vote for anything she puts forward. So don't get too upset about anything that she files this year.
And even last year, she was only on one committee. Committee assignments are one of the ways that the people, the party leaders exercise control. You may have read that the Speaker of the House took one committee away from each of 3 delegates who had signed a letter asking the vice president not to accept Virginia's electoral vote. Um, Another thing I really like, I found it under committees, but it's in here under several paths, is the citizen tip thing. It spells out for you how to prepare to testify. Should that ever be something you feel ready to do.
Is testifying different than just commenting? Like, or is that the same thing?
Testifying would be when you're actually speaking to the committee out loud on the record.
Okay, did anybody else do that house training with the House of Delegates training? Because that was really good they gave a lot of good tips. That if it's especially if it's a popular issue, you may not even have to speak, but they would do a poll during the meeting, and then you would have to indicate if you were a yes or a no for the bill, because they don't have a lot of time.
So I commend you to read through this at your leisure, the citizen involvement page. Let's see if I covered all the things in my notes. Going way out to the beginning, Capital Classroom does provide school level explanations. If you at some point want something on the simple side. I've always been an advocate of like using a children's book to get into a topic. Okay, I think that's what I wanted to show you on the General Assembly. And then this is the quick pull down. So you can go directly to the legislative information system, or you can put a bill in number in here. Does somebody have a bill number in here? Does somebody have a bill they'd like me to put in?
HB 2054.
2064.
No, 54.
Whoops. Well, good. There's this a lot interesting. 2054. Transit-oriented development. Have I got the right one?
Yes.
Okay, things to look for. There's no sign of a fiscal impact statement yet, but that sounds to me like a bill that would have fiscal implications. So I'd keep an eye out for that. Is anybody signed on? No, that's not a good sign.
You mean other delegates?
All patrons. There are no co-patrons
Okay.
or other patrons.
Show us the full text and so on, please.
It's pretty short.
Same, yeah.
I don't know. Okay, all he's doing is saying, eliminate the phrase to reduce density in others or, and change it to reducing, modifying, or waiving local parking requirements or ratios. That's a bill I would support. On the other hand, I have a feeling that he's the resident loose cannon for
you
the
think so?
Democrats, and his bills may not have a lot of traction.
Oh, have you actually heard that? From, I mean, from wherever source? You don't have to say where.
I haven't heard it from a source. It's something I've observed.
Oh,
Um, he is the one who made a scene at the 400th anniversary of the House of Burgesses. I don't know.
So where's this bill now?
It has been referred to the Committee on Counties, Cities, and Towns. You can follow that to the Committee on Counties, Cities, and Towns. You can see who's on that committee. A local person, Steve Heretic, is vice chair.
Jay Jones. Askew, Guy.
He's on that committee, so
Yeah.
that does give him an advantage. He won't have to scramble to go to some committee he's not on in order to introduce his bill. Martha Mugler's on the peninsula, Askew's local, is local, Jenkins is local, Williams Graves has already got committee appointments.
Newly elected, yeah.
Leftwich, you'll notice the Republicans follow the Democrats in the list. That's not true in the Senate. They run in seniority order. Okay. So that bill ought to be in this list somewhere. And since I don't believe this committee has met yet, oh, they must have done enough to have referred things to a subcommittee. Quite a bit of what they deal with is stuff that I attribute to the Dillon rule. In other words, there are things that you would expect a county, city, or town could simply decide to do, but not in Virginia. They have to get permission. So at any rate, you got, here's what's landed in their inbox. And then they parceled out to subcommittees. Here's what the committee has considered worthy of being voted on by the House of Delegates. This would be stuff that they don't want to deal with this year. And this would be stuff that in one of several ways is not going anywhere. The bill I was interested, that was Amanda Batten's bill in that Privileges and Elections Committee meeting. She was proposing some requirements for organizations that wanted to mail out absentee ballot applications so that we didn't have the kind of confusion we had late last summer and fall when those unsolicited absentee ballots arrived in people's mailboxes with their name already printed on them, and you know, and their identifying information, and people went into orbit and accused everything under the sun of going on, claimed they'd been sent ballots, yelled and screamed about voter fraud. So I thought it was a great bill and I was all for it. The Privileges and Elections Committee, however, wasn't as thrilled with it. And they did what you may hear referred to as PBI, passed by indefinitely.
What does that mean?
It means they're not going to deal with the bill
This year or next year unless something.
forever.
Yeah, okay.
Or at least until somebody other than Amanda Batten has it. Some of it was clearly partisan. She's a Republican. And I believe it was the chair. Made, no, it wasn't the chair. I withdraw that. A Democrat on the committee made remarks about Republicans and voting bills, and essentially said he didn't trust a bill on voting from Republican.
So what did the chair do at that moment?
Not a thing.
Carolyn.
They took a little vote. They decided to pass it by indefinitely.
So it dies, basically,
It's dead.
for this session, unless somebody starts a new one next session.
Carolyn,
Else?
I looked up a bill that, said it had already, I can't think of the word right now. It was defeated. How can a bill be defeated this early in the session?
I think that that's a result of the limit on the bill. I saw the same thing and wondered. Now, I'm making this up, but I think it may be a case of people saying, I withdraw my bill because I'm over the limit. Because the limit, they started filing bills before the limit was imposed.
I also
So
think
let's say
that-
somebody filed 10 bills, they've been told they can only have 7. And they went back and said, well, which 3 do I care least about? And
it's so-
withdrew those 3. Huh?
It's so erroneous to say defeated then.
That I did not set it up.
Yeah, it's your fault. No, it seems like it would just say, withdrawn, but not defeated. I don't know.
So the legislative information system. It is getting progressively better. It's a lot easier. Maybe I've learned more, but it seems to me to be a lot easier to use than it used to. We were basically in the first section, bills and resolutions. Search by bill number. If you're crazy, you can look at all legislation. It's just a great long list. We can look at all the legislation by a particular legislator. Anybody want to name somebody?
Linwood Lewis.
Okay. Chief patron. Transportation funding, workers' compensation, flood control, outbreaks of COVID, carbon sequestration task force, property disclosures. That one's Kelly Fowler's been pushing. Huh.
Cats?
she put that forward before,
He's
right?
got
And they killed it. The
Trap,
Republicans
neuter, and
did.
release for cats. I've got to speak to that man. We have a feral cat in the neighborhood. It's driving me nuts. It sits under my bird feeder. Stormwater, JLOC study on the costs of education. Interesting. So those are the bills he's got up as chief patron. Now, as I understand it, chief co-patron doesn't count against the allowable limit. So that enabled him to add this one, which I believe is a bill that
Click on that, please.
that Virginia Beach asked for.
Okay.
Though John Bell is nowhere near Virginia Beach.
So he introduced it, and then show us all the patrons that are on that bill.
So clearly that bill's fairly popular.
In
Well
both houses,
supported.
yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
Lewis and Lucas. And we've already got support on the House side.
Okay.
We can also go from here to who is this John Bell character? What party is he in? Where is he?
Just a minute. Bill,
How would I reach him?
yeah. Okay.
So, I mean, anytime you see a legislator's name that's clickable, you can get information on them because you probably don't know all 140 of them.
I'm still using last year's Red Book because it's almost
Yeah,
exactly the
it's-
same. So if anybody's lucky enough to have this, it's still good, except for a very few.
I got mine. I put Angelia in, crossed off Joe Lindsay. And that reminds me, you could get the all the information for the new people off of here. So let's see, what has he co-patroned that where he's not the chief co-patron? Here's a whole other list.
For a bill to be a joint, either the House joint or Senate joint, do they, before they introduce it, do they have to have a co-patron over on the other?
No, joint means it's a category of bill. All bills have to be passed by both houses, except I think the commendations. I believe the celebrating the life of and those things are gimmies, as you might say. But there's bills and there's resolutions, and the J designation applies to certain kinds of bills. Constitutional amendments are one kind. But a bill does not have to have a mirror image. It's been a rule of thumb that it helps. But this year, because of the extreme bill limit, they're not worrying about that. Okay, we looked at legislation by member. We can look at what's in a committee, what's been assigned to a particular committee. There is a subject index. Those of you on this call who are librarians will shudder. There's no C references or C also references. There's no, you have to find out what term they decided. Martha was, I think, asking about gun control.
Under weapons, yeah.
Yeah, that's where it is, weapons. But until you've searched that whole list, you just wouldn't know that. And the list, the subject list is static. So the fact that a heading is here doesn't mean you'll find a bill under it. They just use the same headers every time. If you've emailed someone in Congress and you've had to use those intake forms to do it, most of them have a subject list and you have to pick something from that subject list, and you can never find something that exactly fits. It's sort of like that. But it's better than nothing. And then we've got where are they in process. Later on, you'll be able to see if the governor sent it back with tweaks and how they felt about it. You'll be able to see if the House and Senate version weren't the same and they signed up a conference committee. So that was everything under bills and resolutions. I mean, there's more, but all that we looked at was under bills and resolutions. Then you can go in directly by your own legislator or whoever you want. You can go in directly by committee. The calendar for what's on for today. Lobbyist in a box is you can check off bills you want to track if you sign up. And I have not found it very useful, and the free version I think is limited to 5 bills. I'm going to show you something better later, in my opinion, better. And here are the floor videos. And here's the budget. Doesn't even look like the other stuff. You have the bill. And this is kind of pro forma. The person who introduces it is set by that person's, I think, committee. And these two ought to be the same. It's the governor's proposed budget. We're just at the introduce stage at this point. It's divided into 2 chunks: operating expenses, capital expenses. Everybody knows what those mean. And there's actually these 2 as well. But I think you mostly are going to look at the first 2. If your concern has to do with infrastructure, you're going to be in the capital section. And you can see that there's already been a lot of changes from where they were. Operating is salaries and consumable stuff and services. I was looking for the STEP VA, which was part of the legislative collaborative table. So I said, well, it's mental health. It's probably health and human resources. Okay, where do I go from here? There's somewhere along around here that I gave up and emailed Tommy Cubine, who's our local expert.
So Carolyn, there's nowhere you can type in STEP VA and something will help you out with this.
Not that I know of. It's not that user-friendly, but it's gotten a lot more user-friendly than it was.
Yeah.
It turned out it's this, I believe. Financial assistance for health services. And it has been cut a little.
Hey, Carolyn, this is Glennis. I saw something that says higher education on that last list that you point.
Probably.
But where's just, that said higher education. Is there something up there for just public school education? I didn't see it, or maybe it's on another page or something, or.
Well, yeah, it would have been on the previous page.
Okay.
So I'll be honest, if you are connected with an organization that specializes, like when I said Tommy Cubine, she's with NAMI, help me, National
Association for Mental Illness.
Yeah. Get them to tell you where to look. It helps a lot. Yeah, here's the Office of Education. Is that what you were thinking?
I guess, I don't know. I was looking to see what does this Office of Education entails? Is that salaries? Is that for localities, or just what is it for?
Now, this is a state budget, so it's not going to be what the locality pays, but it will be what the state throws in, the direct aid to public education. and federal money that the state gets to allocate.
And then that.
Heavens, that's $1 billion.
And the figure over, and these, the figures will be distributed throughout the state. Is that-
And it probably outlines how. See, there's nutrition in here.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
Again, it's something you really need to sit and explore. Because actually, I mean, you know, you can't break it. So you try one rabbit hole and it goes nowhere, you try another.
Thank you.
And there's all, yeah, budgets corresponding to departments. One thing I will say, budgeting can be kind of like yuck, but budgets really are where we find our values. Where we put our treasure, that's what really means something. So that's the budget section. Now it'll get more complicated as the amendments get added in. We're looking at sort of the newborn baby budget. As I pass by it, remember, we've got this, we've won for 3 years. We're depending on y'all to record your contacts with your legislators. And I discovered that at least in the Microsoft browser, which I like the least, but it's what I'm in now, it will hold my information. Judith,
mean
that's
it'll
special
hold-
for you.
The whole form or hold your, yeah, that. Oh, I see.
Now, you're still gonna have to check Southampton roads.
Right. But it'll hold the top part.
And you're going, there's no way it would be able to plug that in.
Right. That changes every time you make a contact. Yeah. Okay.
But it did remember that.
Where is this, Carolyn?
Can I get to chat from here?
I think if you minimize your screen, you'll be able to see how to get to chat.
There you go.
Carolyn, is that on the sheet that you sent out on your link sheet? Is that on
I
that?
believe so. Let me check.
Okay.
It will
No,
also save.
I
on
apologize. It
Chrome.
wasn't. Sorry.
It will also save in Chrome. In Microsoft Chrome, if you filled this out before, it will save the information. It will pre-fill with your email and your name.
Good. I have Chrome and I'm on Microsoft and it isn't doing it, but that's okay. I'm glad it's working for some people.
Does
Okay.
everybody on this call know what we're talking about right now? This advocacy challenge? Anybody have a question? Good.
My only question, Judith, is, I fill it out all the time for myself for the league. Do you have to be a league member? Like if you take somebody on an advocacy call or help somebody with the story, if they're with us with the league connected, can their hours count, or is it only league members?
They gotta be a league member.
Okay, just checking. Thanks.
Unfortunately, we really have the thing sewed up for life if we could use everybody we bring along.
Well, Teresa, was that Teresa? Are you asking whether you can
No,
file
I
for
know, no,
4
I
different league members?
No, I know I can do it, and I do try to remember. I'm just saying that the league and our affiliation with the league really does bring some people along sometimes with our meetings, and I was hoping that maybe they could be filling it out too. But I understand you have to be a league member. I just was checking to make sure.
But Carolyn, each of the 4 leaguers on that call with Teresa have to fill out their own, right?
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
But the 2 people on the call who weren't league members, we can't use them.
Yep.
Unfortunately,
We're not using them. Come on.
Thank you.
unless we can recruit them.
Yeah, I just need them to be league members. Thanks.
May I add a comment on that, in that we should expect that the state advocacy people will have at least one recommendation every day for us. And so if we develop a pattern to at least respond to that, it might prove to promote our rhythm in actually using the system, and then of course use it for the projects or legislation you're individually interested in. But it would boost those. Well, it just would be interesting to see it in a daily routine.
Where is that posted, Martha?
We will be getting action alerts, so it might come to you to your mailbox, but you can also go on the state website and see advocacy.
Oh, okay, thanks.
It also, the MailChimp puts it on the state Facebook page automatically. And as soon as I catch it, I forward it to the Southampton Roads Facebook page.
Oh,
okay.
Okay, but
But
after
I'm
you've,
not on Facebook every minute, so, hours might pass before I see it.
but after you've made that contact through the state thing or anything, you still have to go and record it for the contest. You still have to fill out that sheet, right?
Yes.
If it has a click through that says you've done it, then you've done it. Sometimes the alert will say, click here, and you'll send the message and it will record it at the same time.
Can I reinforce that? And that if you are writing a special message with your own words, maybe you're picking up a sentence from the state on the points of advocacy, but if you are changing it to be you, that's your own message, you are highly likely needed to put that in. And it is considered, if we go back to one of those advocacy things, I think it was Skylar Van, what's his name, had said that's a 5-pointer, that they pay more attention to that if you use your own words, but that indeed there is an opportunity that the state's, can I say automatic system, if you click on it and use their language, then it ticks off, and it would at least be a 1-pointer in how it's received on the other end.
I think I want to mention one other thing. You probably would click email or electronic petition, but if you wrote your own, I would come down here and say so. The other thing, I have been using this, any additional information you wish to note, is any response I got. So I have been putting in, when I was on a visit this fall with a legislator, and I got information on the bills that the league is pushing, like the 100% right to vote. If I got a clear response, I'm putting it in here. And I think that, I don't know if that ups our percentage, but I know I gotta thank you for doing so.
That's excellent, Carolyn. I'm so glad you brought that to our attention, because that's where it's really genuine that an impact is being made more than a tick, just more than a tick sheet, you know, from the legislative aid up there.
Can you repeat
That's
what?
excellent.
Can you repeat that tip, Carolyn?
Okay, Jean was our coordinator for a visit to Kelly Fowler. We talked to the aide. And she mostly said she'd take the information back, but a couple times I think she was pretty sure of how Delegate Fowler felt about something. I don't remember if that was true of the 100% right to vote. But if, let's say it was, I would make a note here that said Delegate Fowler is in complete support of, or I actually put on here, Delegate Cosgrove's aide had never heard of.
Okay, so who reads that?
Julia Tanner, the state advocacy chair.
Okay,
So it helps her know who's in our corner, who's hopeless, and who needs more attention.
I have a question. Now, are we only supposed to be logging our time that we're calling and doing these things that are on specific leagues' positions that they're asking us to do, or for any legislation?
Subject of discussion. Look at this list. How many things aren't on this
Big list. Okay, I see.
I mean, money in politics, opposing discrimination. We got a lot of elbow room here. And there's another, if you
Yeah, I was just
happen
gonna
to
say
come
that.
up with something that isn't on this list. So yeah, I report everything.
Sorry, I didn't get to bed till 3 o'clock last night, so.
No,
So
it's
mostly-
great. I'm glad you asked. I mean, don't be reticent. If you've been in touch with a legislator, do a form. Even if you have to check the other. Now, Richmond Sunlight. I think Waldo Jaquith is due for sainthood. This is a personal project of someone committed to democracy who set up this website years ago. And you can get in by bills, by legislators. You can log in. It's called Richmond Sunlight because there's a quotation from Louis Brandeis, former Supreme Court Justice, who said sunlight is the best disinfectant. In other words, transparency in government. You can set up your own account for free with what's called photosynthesis. He likes puns. I'm in my account. That's why it says log out. And there's no limit on the number of bills I can track. We won't go any further on that. I have provided 815 tags for 348 bills. This is a crowdsourced system. It also has recorded all my comments, but some of which are, did I really say that? Okay, here's the crowdsourced cloud tag. And the larger the word, the more bills attached to it. You whether you choose to create an account or not, I think, can add tags. This is a straightforward list of bills that have been added. So, for example, here we've got HB 2290 from Ken Plum. There's a little pop-up that gives you a brief idea of whether, so you know whether you want to click on that. Punishment for conviction of a second or subsequent misdemeanor larceny, repeal. You can comment if you have the desire. If you have an account, you can track the bill. You can vote, though I don't know who pays attention to it, but I like this one. And here's how you would tag it. And I always prefer to use a tag that's already in there because we want to connect it with other bills on the same subject. It's as simple as that. Now, there will occasionally be people who decide to get snarky and create a tag for stupid bill or something. But it still works pretty well because that sort of thing never catches on and therefore the print stays tiny. So I think you'll find that it is much easier to locate bills here. So here's the pre-clearance bill that the League of Women Voters is promoting. Now I want to track it too. A couple of things that we have under the legislator that, yeah, I could come here, but let me just pick up Schuyler Van Valkenburg. In some ways, it's very similar, but we've got a nice little map of the district. We've got, I don't think they had the Twitter handle on the other one. This, I think, is really interesting. 85% of the bills he co-patroned were introduced by Democrats. Of all the co-patrons of his bills, 72% of them are Democrats. So out of those things, they do a litmus paper. How partisan is this legislator? He's not real extreme, definitely a Democrat. Here's the clown tag for just his bills. And you can go back and look at previous year's bills. Plus here are his bills this year. The one thing I find difficult is that the list runs off the bottom. Oh, I see still got Jennifer Carroll Foy on there too. Think of somebody to look for. Oh, I mentioned Delegate Batten. Let's look at her. So she too is not extremely partisan. She's fairly new. So she's not got a big clout tag. And here's her district. It's one of those funny looking ones. So she lives in Norge. So it goes from beyond Williamsburg down to, I think, Poquoson. Commending Pierce's Pit Barbecue. Okay. They all get a few of those. So here's Mamie Locke, who is on the peninsula except for this little pinch of Portsmouth. So she is in our territory after a fashion. She does a lot of commendations.
Carolyn, I have a question.
Uh-huh.
I really appreciated how everyone was listing their Senate districts and their House districts. Do we have a listing of that for like leaguers across the Commonwealth? Because an earlier comment that you made, I can't remember if you made it this Zoom meeting or the previous one, but they won't listen to anyone if you're not their constituents.
I think Ms. Vivian said that. Frankly, it's a yes and no to that part. They really are most concerned with their constituents because, after all, they're elected to represent their constituents. But to the extent they are on a committee, or especially a committee chair or one of the higher ranking powers in the legislature, they do have some state responsibility, and they differ in how much they take that responsibility. Some will listen to you. I
was more
on mailing lists from a whole bunch of people who are not I am not a constituent of.
As I am, because I was able to visit them in person, sign their mailing lists, connect with their legislative aide. And since that's not possible this session, I was just wondering if there's a smoother line of resistance to connect with folks. I'm glad that Shelley Simons has been added to education, but but I'm more interested in reaching across the aisle to the folks.
Well, I'm now I was personally moved, but I really appreciated Amanda Batten, who's Republican, on that absentee bill. So I wrote afterwards and said, yeah, I'm sorry they didn't report it out. I think it was a good thing, and I really thank you for carrying that bill. And I got a really nice letter back from her aide, but still.
Carolyn, you signed that with...
That's a way you could begin to build a relationship with someone, even though you can't do some of the normal
right
stuff.
because
everybody wants to thank you, and most people at least occasionally do something good.
And that's what I do. Like the staff, I think, introduced some facilities funding or just legislation about updating school facilities. So yes, I try to find a thank you. And while I have your attention, so yeah, okay, thank you.
So
but
yeah,
I was just wondering.
I'm
sorry. I was just wondering if the league ever offers that information to its members, so that leaguers who are actual constituents of a legislator might connect with each other. I just thinking. Thank you.
Okay, going back to the first part. I took the roster for Southampton Roads and I looked up everybody. So I know who's in whose district.
Carolyn?
Uh-huh.
And everybody, for leaguers, for league board, that list has just been posted in our Google Docs that the league board has access to. I can't speak beyond that, but league board members, and that includes Vicky, for example, can see the list of the districts for all our members. Note the addresses are not shown on that, but Carolyn had the addresses, looked them up, gave the districts for both houses of the General Assembly and the U.S. House of Representatives. And you can see the league members' districts on that. So that's for board members. Thank you.
Oh, hey, I had a note for, I know sometimes it may be hard to find things to thank some of these legislators for. And one thing that I found that there are a lot of Republicans that I was actually really surprised that are patrons of HJ 523. It's declaring voting rights for women month in Virginia starting in November of 2021. And there's quite a few, it's mostly all Republicans. There's a few Democrats, but you know, it's a good thing to say, hey, thanks for, you know, at least doing that. You know, I know it's just like a ceremonial thing, but it ties into what the league is all about in women in voting.
Great idea.
Yeah, there's a bunch of people here we could send thank yous to. You're right. It's a easy way to get a little positive vibe.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I had to write to my congressman, and I was, you know, I was looking for something to say that was positive, but also that was related to what I was talking about with voting, and you know how the Democrats and Republicans can come together. So, especially during this time, you know, we'll see what happens.
Great.
Can you think of any
Notice-
other subjects to add to this?
Oh, it was just a note. I found my unmute button that it's the month for women's vote then would be in November. And November is the birth date of the Virginia State League. So that kind of matches up nicely. November 10th is the anniversary of the State League.
So shall I vote in favor of this?
Sure.
Who knows? I have no idea. I think that's just so you feel good. I'll track it.
This is a great site, and I just actually found this the other day when I just did a Google search of a bill number. So yeah, I'm really glad that you're going over all this.
Oh, while I'm here, one other thing is scrolling down just a little bit, related bills. This is a wonderful help. Now, I think for the most part, this is generated by the tag cloud. It's showing you other bills that got the same kinds of tags. So what's popping up here is constitutional amendments, right to vote. Did you know there's a proposal to let 16-year-olds vote?
Saw that.
Yeah.
Do we have a position on that up or down the line?
We do not.
At no level.
You could extrapolate that since the league is all about expanding voting rights, but you couldn't say that the league has supports this. No.
Right.
Pre-clearance. That's one the state league does support. But see, this is really helpful. So that's the main stuff on this one, and I've run over by 15 minutes.